just wanted to say thank you to Jesselyn and to Tom, everyone else, of course, too. My brother John is a whistleblower, and John's actually serving time in a federal prison in Loretto, Pennsylvania. Letters that people are sending to him are what keeps him waking up every day and keeps him from submitting, or what do I want to say, succumbing to what the government wants him to do, and that's just to be quiet. They're punishing him for speaking out and writing letters that he's sending outside of the prison. So not only remembering what everyone before him has done, but try to remember those people and their families too. He's a father of 5, and he's missing out on his family growing up. So all those letters and taking time out to call is such a big deal. And I don't think people realize what an effect it could have. So if you could write, and I live in New Hampshire. Yes, his name's John Kiriakou. It's easy to remember, it's defendjohnk.com. But I have started writing letters to the senators in New Hampshire and our Congress people to say that, you know, my God, it is live free or die, and that's what people like Tom and Jesselyn have done for us, so that we do have that right. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad you could come. John Kiriakou is one of the most tragic cases in my life because he is a CIA officer, or former CIA officer, who blew the whistle on the fact that torture by the U.S. was not just some one-off by Lindy England and Charles Grader being out of control, that it was actually a program. And he had the audacity to reveal that the U.S. government was engaged in waterboarding. John also significantly refused to take torture training offered by the CIA. He spoke publicly about the CIA being engaged in torture, and that's what led to the circumstances of him serving 2.5 years in jail right now. And what I can say without a shadow of a doubt is that if John had actually tortured somebody, he would not be in jail today. And that's frightening. Through the Obama administration's look forward, not backwards policy that granted immunity to all CIA officers who had been involved in rendition, detention, interrogation, and coercive interrogation techniques, which are all euphemisms for kidnapping and torture. So please, we have a John Kiriakou Defense Fund raising money for his family at the Government Accountability Project, Whistleblower.org. There's the John K. Facebook page, Defend John K., and a lot of other efforts to support him. And he, in fact, has been going through a lot of grief in prison, as just mentioned, for exercising his First Amendment right by writing letters that were published by Fire Dog Lake in a project that I came up with called Letters from Loretto, modeled on Martin Luther King's Letters from a Birmingham Jail. And for simply exercising that right, he has been mistreated, lied to, and threatened with all sorts of horrible things in prison. And every single letter matters, and that for John and for Chelsea, I mean, that is what keeps people going. So please, if you don't know about John's case, just come to whistleblower.org. You can learn more on his Wikipedia page and on the Facebook page. I can't implore you enough. It's such an injustice, and I live with it every day, feeling that this is a whistleblower that I couldn't save from jail.
John Kiriakou is an extraordinary human being. I got to know him very well before he ended up accepting the plea, because it was clear he was going to face a lot more years in prison, no doubt, unless he did. Because there was enormous pressure. Pressure is that I was quite familiar with him Up until Edward Snowden's disclosure, there was only two people who had actually been prosecuted and indicted for having revealed the two biggest scandals of the Bush administration, namely torture and secret surveillance. That was John Kiriakou and myself. John Kiriakou was not tried. I used to be a former CIA officer, very familiar with the culture. It takes extraordinary courage to stand up when you're being asked to just follow orders and go along in the name of national security. You refuse to do that. And in public, he was the first former employee of the United States to acknowledge that torture was state-sponsored from the highest levels of the United States government. First one. For that, he's paid an enormous price. He said it publicly, we're Americans, we're better than that. We don't need to do this. He spoke extraordinarily fluent Arabic. He knew that there's much better ways to deal with those that even we had declared to be threats to national security. You don't have to pull them off. You don't have to send them to black sites. You don't have to torture them. You don't have to have the Guantanamos. Just go.
Significantly, I would note that Thomas Drake and John Kiriakou blew the whistle on two of the biggest scandals of the Bush administration, namely secret surveillance and torture, and you can see the result.
So I think probably last question or second to last question. I would love to go all night because thank you guys. One here and then one in the back because we don't like to discriminate. You, yeah, thanks.
So I think we're being heard for people. I understand Rand Paul's essay. My state of Utah is cutting. We're going to try to cut the water. I think Maryland is trying to cut the power. Anyway, I've heard that you're getting some backlash from the NSA. Is that accurate? Do you guys have any comments on what the NSA is thinking or what they might do, or if the backlash, if they're going to write an article and might actually ramp up this fighting? Is any of this true? Do you have any comments?
Now they're saying they need to ramp up the spying and they need to make sure to hold on to everything because they're getting food alive. Which I thought was an interesting rationale for that. In terms of acts of civil disobedience, I have no idea. I think they're very retaliatory, petty, wrong, ill-advised, misguided, lying agency, and so it's not beyond the realm of comprehension that they specifically target people. In terms of the Utah data storage facility, someone needs to get a big fat stocked work order on that thing because your taxpayer dollars are being spent to build even more of these facilities. In terms of NSA going dark, that has happened before. I think one time it went dark for 3 days. Tom would know more about that. But again, I can't encourage you to say, yeah, cut the electricity. I can't advise you to do anything illegal. I can advise everybody to feel free to engage in civil disobedience.
Yeah, so I mean, as long as vast, secret, unaccountable agencies exist, they're always going to be grasping for more power. I mean, we've seen that with the NSA time and again. They were asking for the ability to wiretap all of the United States before 9/11. They were just granted the power after 9/11 because the political capital was there. You know, just before Edward Snowden came out, they were asking for vastly more cybersecurity power, which would allow them to scan all of the internet traffic in the U.S. Much more broadly than they already do. You know, you're going to be hearing in a couple weeks about data retention. They now want the phone companies to hold us information for them so they can continue to search it instead of having it in their own databases. So the phone companies will have to hold on to this for 5 years. And then who knows what other law enforcement agencies are going to want this information. So as long as they are operating, they're going to be asking for more power. And so it's our job to not only make sure that they don't get that power, but that we can restrict it even more. And this, for the first time in probably 40 years, we actually have that opportunity in the next 6 months. So hopefully we'll be able to see some action.
I have other creative ideas. You know, in my fantasies, I'm like, yeah, someone should just follow Dianne Feinstein and Mike Rogers around all day. I'd like to know where she goes to get her manicures and what that awful shade is that she guys are wearing. Don't break any laws, but start posting personal information that you know about some of these leaders who are like, if you have nothing to hide, you have nothing to fear. But clouders, defense undergarments, or whatever. There's stuff about these people. I mean, you put them on the defensive. And I'm not saying to stalk them or anything. I'm just saying there are creative ways, and you guys are a lot more creative than I am because I've been in lawyer mode for too long. But I'm sure they're much more devious, diabolical, clever, but legal ways to make this point.
Yeah.
Oh.